welcome to another review edition of the Simply Put podcast. My name is Micki Angeles.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Fred Niones, aka Angelo.
And in this episode review, you get to see us with some brand new lighting techniques as well as no hands dance because we have no mics in our hands. But to get this new Simply Put podcast review edition started, we will get into The Flash in Season 1, Episode 17, which is titled All-Star Team Up.
Oh, yeah.
Not to be confused with the other team up with The Arrow, because in this episode, we have Ray Palmer, a.k.a. The Atom, with Felicity Smoke, coming to visit the Star Labs crew in Central City to discuss the matters of his suit, as well as the matters of the heart, which ties in perfectly with Eddie Thawne's relationship with Iris being strained due to the reveal that Barry Allen was the Flash, and he can't tell anybody. Also happening in this episode, we get to see the dwellings of this hidden resentment towards Harrison Wells, aka Eobard Thawne, as well as a villain who is
Brie Larson, aka the Bug-Eyed Bandit. Well, I, for one, didn't like this episode this week. We had an underwhelming villain. The guest star of Felicity Smoke and Ray Palmer didn't feel organic at all. It felt very forced. While there was some cool moments with Cisco and Ray, which I really loved, that had me rolling. Felicity, I really don't like your character this season, especially in the Flash guest starring things. We got to see a little more of why Barry's beginning to hate who Harrison Wells really is, because he did kill his mother. But other than that, a down episode for me.
I thought this episode disappointed as well. It was a very bad representation of what this season has been. With the competition now with Daredevil's Netflix series coming out, it's really hard to really compete with something that's so polar opposite from everything that's out right now. But judging this episode alone, it was tough. It was tough to watch. It was very slow paced, but not to the point where some of the slower paced episodes in this season was more character development, where this one was trying to fit pieces into a peg that wasn't really fitting. A lot of it was forced. Yeah. Another lackluster villain.
But I will say this, they did get a cool reveal with how Cisco's been affected by the time traveling aspect of when Barry went back in time. He still has his original memories. So I'm thinking they probably read House of M. If you guys didn't read House of M, Scarlet Witch uses her powers to alter reality, and Hawkeye, who was dead, comes back to life, and he still remembers how he died. So we're seeing that here in the Flash episode with Cisco. What'd you think about that, Mick?
It reminds you of House of M. It kind of reminds me of the end of Flashpoint.
Ooh,
with that conversation between the Flash and Batman about these temporal memories that are collapsing within each other. And it seems that Cisco's getting some of the memories he had on the previous timeline, where Harrison Wells confesses to him in the place where the Reverse Flash was quote-unquote captured and then released, and he dies.
Yeah, I think they rehashed that whole storyline for this episode, basically, because you had Joe telling him, we gotta be patient, we have to show that we're still cool with Harrison Wells. But what I really liked was how Barry showed the anguish, how he was really hesitant of just saying, I can't really I have to show that I trust this guy, but I don't really trust this guy, and that played off well on screen. But like you said, it was basically a rehash of what last week's episode was.
One rehash that I did admire from the last week's episode was Eddie Thawne's stressing over the relationship with Iris due to the reveal that Barry did to him in the end of the last episode.
And what an interesting dynamic that was when you had that little argument in the beginning with Joe and Eddie going like, oh, when does my opinion of me being her boyfriend matter? And Joe says, when you're her husband. So that really shocked me in a way, because you're thinking that, because in the comics, Iris and Barry end up together. Yeah. So we're seeing this dynamic where Eddie's maybe gonna push that marriage thing so he could finally tell her who Barry really is.
And let's talk about one of the low points of this episode, which was the villain, Brie Larson, the Bug-Eyed Bandit.
Brie Larson.
I guess to coincide with larva, which bees are grown out of, I guess. But she has mechanical bees, which have a neurotoxin that's 10 times stronger than a normal bee. Yep. And it could continue piercing you without losing its stinger. And we see that with the two co-workers that she had since she was a previous employee of Mercury Labs, and also what those bees did to Barry Allen.
And what a underwhelming villain that was, man. She was played by the beautiful Emily Kenny, who was in Walking Dead as Beth, and she died. So R.I.P. to her in Walking Dead. But anyway, this villain did nothing for the story, except, I guess, give Ray Palmer an idea to go smaller. So I guess that it served the purpose that way, but underwhelming, purely undeveloped, and her banter with Felicity Smock, when they didn't really talk to each other, that was just corny as hell. It was like, oh, if you want to feel the sting of my bees. I didn't really like it at all, man. You know what? Let's get to what this episode was really about, and that's the team up between the Atom and the Flash in this. Well, they didn't really team up per se. They did help each other a lot, and the banter. What I really loved about this guest starring with Ray Palmer was his banter with Cisco. How they're basically the ultimate bromance now. Sorry, Joe and Barry, but it's Cisco and Ray now. That's the ultimate bromance.
And it seems like whoever comes to Central City from the other universe, they always tend to go towards Cisco, where we saw John Diggle come into the Flash crossover, and he had a great rapport with Cisco. I think Cisco's a really great character, very underrated. Well, I guess I underdogged him in the beginning of the season, but he turns out to be one of the best parts of this episode. But it was short-lived. It wasn't something I was expecting. I expected something a little bit more traumatic. Though the villain in this episode did a lot more play than the Eyes guy in the initial Flash and Arrow crossover. Very disappointing episode. I
think the main team up was with Felicity and Barry, and how she was able to sense that there was something wrong, and because she knew him, she even said it like, we've been through too much that I know something's up, and to finally say that, oh, I can't trust my own team, that's a very interesting dynamic, because they, like Joe said, Caitlin and Cisco, they're the mentees of who Harrison Wells is, so that's gonna be playing up in the future episodes to come, I guess.
Cool.
All right, guys, so let's get to the question of the episode. And will Eddie start blaming Barry for the recent troubles with Iris? And is this the beginning of why the Thawns hate the Flash? Go in the comment section and let us know.
All right, guys, that's another episode down. If you like this episode, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the page to get more reviews from more shows with Arrow, The Flash, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., soon to be Daredevil, and soon to be other things coming up, whether it's Netflix or in television. But my name is Micki Angeles. Definitely find me on Instagram and on Twitter at Nick Certified.
And I'm Fred Niones, aka Angelo. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at _Fred_N.
And for more news and updates, check us out with our long form podcast at www.simplyputtalk.com. And if you have questions, comments, if you want to give us a topic to talk about in our long form podcast, give it to info@simplyputtalk.com. But stay connected to us via social media on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram at simplyputtalk.
Woo!
All right, guys, we always love your support, so give us a thumbs up and a subscribe, and peace out.